In this segment, on Speak for Yourself, Jason Whitlock and Marcellus Wiley and the Bucky Jones and Joe Clapp, they're gonna discuss whether Maryland's football head coach DJ Durkin, should be fired for a young 19-year-old football player died of heat stroke, this past summer, and they're going to discuss whether he should keep his job or he should stay. Let's see what they're going to say.
I believe DJ Durkin should resign here. The Board of Regents, the Maryland power structure has let him down in the game of football down. The guy should walk away.
I don't think he should. Sensitive topic here because the loss of life obviously occurred on DJ Durkin's watch. But after a 178-page investigation, after numerous months of intense investigation, based on intel from that investigation and his location at that moment when all of these incidents occurred, I respect their decision to put him back on the sidelines. I think it would be honorable of DJ Durkin right now, instead of running from this situation or stepping down, to actually restore a culture. And what is that culture? What is the culture of football that is really coming into question right now? Because I don't know if all the observers and outsiders want to know the deep, dark underbelly of motivation that comes.
I want to step in right now and give my take on it. Now, Marcellus Wiley, he played football. He was a pretty good football player. So he's talking about the culture of football. And, yes, sports and especially football, and we've seen it with Bobby Knight. Some of these coaches like to berate their players to get motivation out of them, to get things out of them that they probably can't get out of themselves. And I'm an advocate of motivating a kid, especially a young child. I'm talking about grammar school and high school and college. When you get to the pro level, you as a man should be able to stand up to a coach if you think the coach is going too far. But I'm talking about young kids, man. You know what I'm saying? So when you do that with young kids look up to the head coach. A lot of the young kids are intimidated by the head coach or the coaches that are coaching them at the time, and they will do anything deemed necessary to get that head coach's or that coach's approval. Now, in this case, it was the strength and conditioning coach that was berating the young man and calling him the P word. We all know how he was doing in his style, because we have had played. If you ever played in high school sports and you understand, some coaches do things differently. Some coaches like to berate you and cuss you out and things of that nature. I'm not an advocate of that, because, like I said, kids are impressionable, and this kid wanted to do and impress this coach. Even he was showing signs of dehydration. It was hot. They had full pad. If you ever had a full pad uniform on with football equipment and helmet, you will understand what I'm talking about. Because I played on the football team and we practiced in the summer in the heat, and it can get hot. You feel like the walls are caving in on you. You feel suffocated when you got that helmet on, and coaches do not allow you to take your helmet off. And the young kid died. Now my thing is this: I don't care about the investigation. Yeah, the investigation had to go on, yes, and all that. But the head coach hired that strength and conditioning coach, knowing his style. Trust me, he knew his style, because he did background check on that strength and conditioning coach. Now, if he didn't, that's on him. That's a black eye on him, because you're supposed to do your homework. But I believe me, he did his homework at the college level, in high programs like Maryland, high profile programs. He did all his homework on this strength and conditioning coach. He hired him probably because he probably have a history of getting the best out of his players. Now, when you berate a child and the child dies from heat stroke, and he's showing signs of it, of having heat stroke, then you should lose your job, and the coach should lose his job, because he hired you. And when you hire someone, you are taking on their character. And if they do something out of line or do something out of pocket, something egregious as this, he should be fired, and you should be fired, because it was a bad hire by you. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, I had an incident happen like this with my son's friend. He played on the football team. Now, the young man, the coach had him in full pads and cleats and everything, and helmet. running around the track. Now this track is huge. This school is right across the street from my house. This is a huge track. It looked more like a track that should be at a college than a grammar school. You know what I'm saying? So he had the little dude run around that track. It was 90 degrees. Had him run around the track 10 times. Now, to the young man's credit, he only ran around the track 6 times. He told the coach that he's tired, he's worn out, and he can't go anymore. The coach proceeded to call him all types of names. You see, this is what I'm talking about. See, that could not have been my child, because I would have went up to that school and it would have been what it would have been. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, the culture of football is one thing, but when a child dies over a game, especially a game that the young man, he didn't die over the game that he participated in, and he got hit by a hard hit in the game and died, or he had a existing injury or something like that. His heart was not functioning correctly, or he had a respiratory system preconditioning respiratory system problem that the football staff or the school didn't know about. No, he died because of strength and conditioning coach pushed him way too far.
Playing the game of football, there's a couple mantras that coaches used to always profess and we live by. One is everything that we ask of you is not more than you can handle, just more than you expect. And that lends itself to what conditioning is. Mental conditioning, getting you tougher. Physical conditioning, get you stronger. People have to understand.
But I'm gonna tell you something about that, like this, Marcellus Wiley. When you're practicing in the heat, in the sun, that doesn't get you tougher. All that does is put you in a bad situation physically. It doesn't get you tougher because you're training in 100-degree heat. No, that doesn't get you tougher, man. That can lead to your death, which led to that young man's death.
And that in order to get stronger, you have to break yourself down. And then when you break yourself down in the process of restoring yourself, you actually get stronger, bigger, better, faster, whatever that may be. And it's a gray area and a balancing
I disagree.
act right now that's occurring, and unfortunately we lost a life in that process. And collegiate football has lost 30 lives since 2000 in the process of conditioning. That's a different conversation than this, but I don't think that DJ Durkin should run from that because I don't find him fully culpable.
You know, it's hard for me to say that I can endorse DJ Durkin returning to the sideline. Not only because of the incident with the kid passing away, but more so just the culture that was created around that program.
The kid passing away is enough for me to say the coach should lose his job. Like I said, he hired the strength and conditioning coach knowing his style, knowing that he does what he does to get what he can out of the athletes, the student athletes, and he went too far. And when it goes too far, and you are a person that liked what he was doing in the beginning, when it goes too far and it goes over the edge like this, both of you should lose your job. Plain and simple.
When you hear the way the strength coach and coaches would talk to the players, to me, I find that unacceptable. Now, maybe I kind of have that pie in the sky view on it because I played under Matt Brown when he was at North Carolina. We had strength coaches, Jeff Mad Dog Madden. We had Rick Tootin, who also were hard on us, but they also treated us with respect. Coach Brown always had a policy where
look, like to Bucky Jones is saying, you have to have a fine line. You cannot go over the edge. You have to have a fine line and know when to pull back. That coach should have knew when to pull back, but he didn't. He didn't know when to pull back because that's his style. That's what he does. And he got away with it for a long time because nothing happened physically to a child. But this time it did. And he deserved to lose his job. Man, I'm talking about some criminal actions. Seriously.
Just couldn't curse at the players. He talked about he wanted to make sure that we were treated with class, so in turn, we would treat others with class. So for me...
Yeah, because I disagree with a coach had to have a style of cursing at a player to get the most out of him. I mean, I don't see why you have to berate, especially, like I said, a child. Now, you're not going to berate my child, and I don't have nothing to say about it. But to berate a child, man, that really probably is so intimidated they won't take up for themselves because you're an adult. So, like I said, at the pro level, it's different because at the pro level, a man can take up for himself and tell a coach, hey, that's enough. But a child probably wouldn't say that, wouldn't do that.
I don't get that, I got to beat him down to build him up. No, I believe you build them up, and they'll continue to build others up. And so, for me, my relationship with my coaches and Mac Brown, he was a role model. He would be a pseudo father figure to me. If I ever had a big decision, I could call him. That's what I expect my coaches to be like. So when I hear the degrading and some of the treatment of the players in Maryland, I can't endorse a coach like that for my son or for kids that I know. I can't say Maryland's the right place for you.
Yeah, it's, all of those things, everything that's been said is true. Here's the hard part for me is that this decision by the board is going to be viewed as like, well, all they care about is winning. But if that's all they cared about, I think they actually would have done something different. And the reason is because I feel like that team is lost. There are fractures in that locker room that are not about guys playing and not playing. It's about a life lost that they care deeply about. There were guys in DJ's first meeting back, and in the meeting that they announced that he would be back, players stood up and said, we're out.
And the reason why those players probably stood up and said that we are out is because they understand, and they probably went through, well, they did go through the strength and conditioning coach berate. You know what I'm saying? A lot of those guys went through that. So they understand that strength and conditioning coach went too far on that day. That young man should not have died. He died unnecessarily. That was unnecessary. That's why I said, to me, they talking about him, the strength and conditioning coach, losing his job. It should be some criminal acts brought on him because of the fact that he pushed this young man way too far. And it's obvious because the young man died. So if I was his parents, I would be going after him criminally, and the school and the head coach, everybody involved, all the other coaches out there that probably sat around and watched it because they probably witnessed that this strength and conditioning coach went too far on other cases, but it just didn't turn into a death situation. But like I said, man, that strength and conditioning coach he's already fired, but the head coach should have walked out the door 2 minutes later. He should have been fired 2 minutes later, not kept on. He should have been fired 2 minutes later after that. I'm out, man. Subscribe to the channel. Let me know what y'all think about the situation.